You are so welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so
It's
much.
fantastic to have you
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
here. You are so welcome. You are the owner of Ganbaru. Am I pronouncing that right?
No one can pronounce it. Probably wasn't a great business name. But the meaning behind it's amazing. So it's Ganbaru. And it's Japanese and it means the tendency to slog on through tough times. But in fact to do one's best.
Okay.
And I just thought, what a name for a wellness business.
It's beautiful, and I love when a business has a good name, and you know by the word it has meaning behind it. You know, you didn't just pluck it from your arse. So Ganbaru Coaching is a life and team coaching service, as well as a wellness hub. You also do meditation, cacao ceremony. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Before we delve into how your business helps people and improve the quality of their lives, I'd love to start by chatting about your story and journey through life so far, and what do I need to know about you to understand how Ganbaru came to be?
Yeah. So I suppose my own journey, I was very, very insecure.
Yeah.
Had probably no self-esteem, no self-love. From a very young age, definitely from teenage years, early teenage years up.
And did anything in particular happen, or was it just naturally not there?
I suppose a bit of like nature and nurture. I think I didn't physically like or could accept or never mind love myself from a very, very young age. So I had that internal dialogue and a lot of like negative self-talk, and probably a lot of like, would I go as far as to say self-hate? Yeah, probably. And that's a huge thing to say.
It is a massive thing to say.
And then I suppose like those inner beliefs and limiting beliefs. Yeah. You know, what's going on the inside, you are kind of manifesting then what's coming on the outside. So I just went through many years, definitely my teenage years, where I really, really struggled massively with self-love, self-confidence, self-esteem. And then thankfully, somewhere along my journey, kind of my early 20s, I kind of learned more about the mind and the brain and how we are as humans. And I was like, oh my God, if I had known, back my younger self, all I know now, I would have saved myself so many years.
I think about that often, because I think back when I was younger, and if I was having a bad day, I was like, well, this is just a bad day. It's going to be, the whole day is going to be bad then. And, people have good days and bad days, and this is just a bad day, or this is a bad week, sometimes a bad year, but you have the power to turn that day around, that moment around, and I think about that a lot myself. Like, as I've gotten older, a lot of the bad days, I actually had the power to change them. I just didn't know.
No, you didn't know how to self-regulate.
No.
There's so many tools, and we didn't know that. How would we? You know what I mean? And I think for me as well, like all the thoughts, the negative thoughts that I had in my head back then, I thought I was the only person having these thoughts.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I was so embarrassed to kind of come out and say it. So I kind of kept up this front. You know what I mean? Everything was going on the outside, internal mayhem going on the inside. And then I was like, you know what? Oh my God, everyone has negative thoughts. Everyone has limited beliefs. Yes, some worse than others. But everyone has that. And it was only then through my own journey, I was like, there's so much we can do. Yeah. You know what I mean? To improve and to be a better version of ourselves. And I was like, you know what? I have to just be able, I can't go back, I can't change my own past, but I was like, I want to be able to share. And hopefully, I'm very passionate about, I do a lot of work in schools, young girls and guys as well, because I just feel like, to be able to give them the tools from a young age, the difference it will make. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I think of people like us who've gone on to, own their own business, and entrepreneurs, and different people who are doing amazing things. Like, mental health wasn't even talked about when we were teenagers. So imagine if we were taught those tools younger. I try not to think about it too much, but where would I be?
I know, totally, Or, your coping mechanisms would have been probably so different.
Absolutely.
Your coping mechanisms were their drink or drugs or whatever they were. You know what I mean? And, not saying, for me, drink definitely would have been a big coping mechanism. Yeah. When I was able to give me confidence and to give me X, Y, and Z. Not saying that, wouldn't have been any different, but I would have had options. Yeah.
on my Instagram story there a few weeks ago, I was like, why at 15 was that the first thing I thought of to spend my weekends doing was drinking?
Yeah.
Like, nothing else came into my mind. I didn't think, will I take up a sport? You know, we all just kind of followed each other that, okay, this is what we're all going to do now for the foreseeable. You know, the session.
And of course, part of that's being young and experimenting.
Yeah, and look, it was fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's just kind of like, it's kind of like, when I'm working in schools, I always say it's like, you know, to teenagers and stuff, like, you know, whether it's drink or drugs, we do a drugs talk, and that's like, you know, what are you doing it for? You know what I mean? Are you doing it to self-soothe? Are you doing it to try to get away from whatever's going on in your head or whatever's going on at home or whatever else? You know what I mean? And I think, you know, if we think back to ourselves when we were like, you know, binge drinking or whatever, it's kind of like, why were we doing it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's the question, and that kind of determines whether it's healthy or unhealthy.
Yeah, absolutely. So you get to your kind of early 20s and you're starting to meet people who are putting these tools into use. And when does Ganbaru come into it?
Oh, it's many years later. I've really been on a long journey, and, you know, done an awful lot of work on myself, like, you know, like my own personal development, and I suppose then academically I've done a lot of courses and a lot of training. But I suppose the first few years, even though I knew there was something more and I was, you know, starting to learn all these tools, I definitely was very much an overthinker, and I was very much like cut off from the head down and couldn't really feel a lot in my body. So like I had to go through a huge journey of, you know, learning different tools and really incorporating them into me, and being able to integrate them. And that takes time.
It takes years.
And even now, the journey is still ongoing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I suppose that was one of my biggest frustrations, and I think I still frustrated from when I see it on social media. There's so much like falseness out there of like what healing looks like, and it's all seen to be like love and light and joy, cacao and reiki and all beautiful. And like the reality is, it's not. It's hard. It's messy. It's complex,
and a lot of it has to be done by yourself.
100%. And my biggest things as well, like, was that like I know kind of like, as I said, self-love, and, you know, you'd be going online and you'd be seeing these people like, just love yourself, sign up to my course, and in 2 hours you will love yourself. I fucking wish. It's not that easy. And I think that's so dangerous for people out there that are struggling, that what they're seeing online and they think is what they should be doing, and then when they do it and they're still not feeling great, they nearly feel like they're failing at that. But like that's not the reality of it, you know?
Absolutely. And I was only I was talking with Emma from Embody about like when you see like the 30-day shreds, and like people who need so much more than a 30-day shred are signing up to these things, and it's like, what deep work can you do in 30 days? You know, it's impossible. You know, it's not a short-term thing. I think people are waking up to it though.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I do.
I hope so. I think those kind of, you know, 30-day things, you know, do this course and be like this in a couple of months. I think they had their 5 minutes, but I think they are going out of fashion. I think people are sick of wasting their money on stuff that doesn't work.
And I think when there's a lot of it, it can be like, I know for me, like when you see an awful lot of it online, a lot of people pushing things in your face, it can be very overwhelming. Yeah. And like that nearly makes you want to turn the other way from it as well. And that's like, for me, like that's like social media. Like I do have like a Instagram page for business, but it's very much like just about sharing. I actually don't really gain any business from it. So there's no pressure there to share or push things on people. It's just about organically sharing. You know, because I think that's important.
Yeah. It's very much so. And it takes the pressure off you. And it would make what you are sharing on your social media more real and more enjoyable for you. And when you're enjoying creating that information to share, it comes through.
Yeah, of course. It's completely different.
What is a life coach and who needs one?
There's a really good quote. I don't know, have you ever read the book The Miracle Morning?
I have not.
Have you heard of it? The author that wrote that said, he's a really famous quote that says, your success will never outweigh your personal development.
Okay.
So, you know, basically that is the determination of how successful you will be in life, how much you put into your personal development.
Who you are as a whole at the end of the day.
Yeah, and put into your own growth.
Yeah.
And I think anyone that kind of wants to be the best version of themselves, work on their personal development, be successful in whatever aspects of their life that they're wanting to be successful in, should and can have a life coach. I think there's a lot of misconception about what a life coach is.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of a, you know, a narrative, and you see memes on social media and like, you know, get a life coach who's 20 and they'll tell you how to, you know, do your life. And that's not the case. Like, I know for me anyway, I trained as a life coach first, and I was like trained for like 2 years. I done an advanced diploma in it. And then I went on to do psychotherapy. But like when I was doing my life coach training, it was very much about having a safe space for somebody, for the client to be able to go within and explore whatever they needed to explore. And like for everyone that would look different, you know what I mean? It could be personal goals, it could be career, it could be relationships, it could be that they were facing a roadblock in life and feel stuck, as we all do. But it's about creating that safe space and guiding the client to maybe asking them questions that they wouldn't ask themselves. And for them to come to their own conclusions and their own kind of aha moments. A coach shouldn't be saying to you, you need to do A, B, C, and D, because no one knows you better than you know you. So it's really about holding that space. And they can make a suggestion, you know what I mean? But the suggestions should be very minimum, and they should be more, you should read this book, or, you know, here's a really good tool or resource that maybe you could introduce. But they should not be saying to you, do X, Y, or Z. You know you know what I mean? But it's about having that space that you can really go and explore you and explore what's going on. Because even with family and friends, you know, when we talk to family and friends, they know us. They think they know what's best for us, and their best intentions at heart. But it's not always right for us.
No.
So when you're with a stranger and you can really be in a safe space and explore you, where they don't know you, there's no judgment. You can be vulnerable, you know? That's powerful.
I remember my therapist I used to go to, the only and the best therapist I've ever had. So much so that I've never gone to another one since, because I'm like, he was just so good. So, have you ever had a family member say to you like, oh, I know you better than you know yourself? And I just believed that. I was like, of course. I was like, you know, when your mom says to you, sure, I know you better than you know yourself. And I remember talking about that with him one day, and he was like, Rachel, how can anyone know you better than you know yourself? He was like, that's not true. He was like, no one has to live in your mind. And I've always remembered that, because it made me trust myself so much more. That I am the only one who lives in Rachel Smith's body. I'm the only one who has to work with her mind. I feel so up my ass talking in the third person narrative, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Who has to work with my mind every day.
And be with you 24 hours a day, you know? So no one knows you better than you. And, you know, as well, we see so much, you know, talk online and stuff about, you know, healers and, you know, all that. And, like, at the end of the day, really, for me, it's about being a space holder and being able to hold a safe space for someone where they feel really safe for them to go in and do their own work. And you can facilitate that, you know what I mean, and guide that. But we ultimately, as you say, know ourselves better than anyone else, and we ultimately can heal ourselves. But it's about feeling safe to be able to go there in the first place.
So it's not just getting a life coach is not just for someone who's struggling.
No, 100%. I honestly believe everybody needs a coach, a therapist. It's about giving yourself that space to really explore. We talk so much about being successful and achieving and, you know, personal development and all that jazz. But we all have shadows. We all have shit. We all have trauma. You know what I mean? But none of us were born with that. No one was born with low self-esteem. But it's the stuff that happens throughout our life, and it's the stories we tell ourselves. You know what I mean? That's roadblocking us from being the best version of ourselves and achieving all those things we want to achieve in life. So by having that space to go and explore those versions of yourselves that we're unaware of, you know what I mean? Because it's from our own perception and our own unconscious. It's so, so powerful. So if you're struggling, of course, it's amazing to have a coach or a therapist, but you know, just to get the most out of yourself, I would highly recommend it as well.
Yeah. Do you have a niche client that you work with?
No, but you know what's really interesting? Someone said to me a long, long time ago, the clients will always find you. And it's interesting, even though I don't advertise the niche. And it's interesting that you do get a lot of same type of clients which are kind of working on self-esteem.
Yeah.
But most of us are. I mean, that's the reality of life. But I do get a lot of women in particular that are kind of working on self-esteem, self-love, and like that, you know, like really maybe want to start a business or want to step into a new version of themselves or a higher version of themselves, and just trying to find that empowerment to take that step, which is not easy.
Yeah. And do you work with men as well?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I've predominantly a lot of women, but I do work with men as well. Yeah, and I work like in a lot of corporate spaces, and then, as I said, schools as well.
Mm-hmm. And would each therapist, would each life coach have their own approach? Do you have a specific philosophy that you would follow?
Yeah, I know what you mean. So obviously, like some are trained and specialised in different areas and different theories or whatever. So it just depends, and I suppose it's about finding one that suits you. And I would always say to people, it can be like finding a needle in a haystack. You know what I mean? Regardless of what their theory is or the practice that they follow, it's about you clicking with them, and as you come back to that feeling safe. And for me, it's very much client-centred. It's very much about the client and holding that safe space for the client to go in and just meeting the client where they are, like with no judgment, with being congruent, you know, holding high integrity. And that's where, like, if you can do that, the rest will happen.
Yeah, yeah. I've read in a book before, there was a whole chapter on leaders and managers and therapists, and the best ones don't do a blanket approach. Each client has to be treated different because everyone has different circumstances. And I just found that really interesting because it's not a one size fits all. But I can imagine that would be very taxing on your brain.
Yeah, but I think like there's so many different like layers, you know what I mean, to it. And I think like it's like about creating a toolbox for people. So for me, it's about having a really extensive toolbox for life, right? And a toolbox has so many different things in it. So, you know, we'll probably talk about some of those things. But like one might be breath work, one might be meditation, one might be therapy, you know what I mean? One might be a sea swim, one might be, you know, exercise. And it's about being able to dip into them when you feel you need them in life. Yeah. And it's the same with therapy. At different times, whatever journey we're on and whatever we're going through, different things are going to work, different approaches are going to work, and then at other times those approaches won't work. You know what I mean? Because it depends what we need at that time, and that's complex. Yeah, life is fairly complex.
It is. What I want to talk a little bit about cacao, as I discovered a few weeks ago with yourself and Sorka when we were having a chat at the Embody event. What first inspired you to take part in a cacao ceremony, and how did it come about?
Yeah, God, a good few years ago. I'd say like maybe.
So it's not a new thing.
No, I know it is becoming a new thing. Yeah, it's becoming this cool
thing. Rookies like me.
I know it's becoming this thing now. But no, God, I'd say maybe like 6 years ago, at least, maybe 6-7 years ago, I was first introduced to cacao. Came across it somewhere, and she's like, "Do you know what? I want to kind of like try that a little bit." Over. I was well on my journey, but as I said to you, I was definitely very much in my head at this stage. And I honestly think cacao was something that massively helped me with meditation, get out of my head and get into my body. And I suppose the most simplest way to describe it is like it's like a cup of hot dark chocolate. And I suppose it is a plant medicine.
Okay.
But it's not a psychedelic. But it is also a superfood. So it's absolutely amazing for the body. So even if you're not spiritual or not into meditating, like it's really, really good for the body. So I have a lot of friends and a lot of like lad friends that aren't into meditating or aren't spiritual, and they're like seeing it online and like, I want some of this because it's so good for the body. It's full of magnesium. So good for recovery. It also like releases and activates different chemicals in the brain, like the bliss chemical, you know, which is endorphins, you know, so it's the same reaction you'll get from like maybe doing a nice bath or a sea swim, you know, like those happy chemicals. So it is absolutely an amazing tool to bring into your life. It really, really is. I suppose because now it's becoming a little bit of a fad, people are maybe getting it in the health shop. Yeah. And there's loads of people kind of offering it, but that is different from a cacao ceremony. So cacao ceremony should be the plant medicine cacao. Yeah. So the one I use comes from Guatemala, and like that's been picked and is pure organic off the tree, and the shamans have prayed over it, and that's where the spiritual side of things come into it. But not everyone that's drinking cacao would necessarily be having one of those. And it's just a beautiful ritual to like sit and meditate and like go within. It's a beautiful experience. You're gonna have to come to one.
I would love to come to one. Could somebody who's in recovery from alcoholism do it? It wouldn't. Do you know what I'm? I know you said it's not a psychedelic.
No, it's not a psychedelic. It is, completely natural. It is a plant medicine that's completely natural. Anyone, is safe to take it if someone is pregnant or on a lot of medication. Yeah. They would need to look at their dosage of it, because for an actual ceremony, you actually take 42 grams in your mug, and that is a lot, and there's a reason for that. To be able to, it takes about 45 to 50 minutes to get the bloodstream to relax you, to activate what it needs to activate within the body. So if someone was on a lot of medication or was, pregnant, we would look at them, meant they were taken. But, if someone has previous addictions or is currently battling addiction, there's no reason that they can't introduce cacao to their diet.
No, it sounds so interesting. And what does the ceremony entail? It sounds so like the ceremony. I just imagine like people over a cauldron, like praying over this cacao.
I know. But I actually would say it is known as the heart medicine, which is really, really interesting. Because I honestly do think like it has helped me get into my body and open my heart space 100%. So the ceremonies, well, for my own ceremonies anyway, you sign up and they're in person. I do them online as well. And then we kind of maybe do a little grounding practice or whatever, get into our space, get onto our yoga mats, make sure we're like lovely and cozy. Yeah. And then I would pour out the cacao and we'll drink it together. So I guide us to drink it together. And I suppose that's just really about being present. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like how often you're home and you're drinking a cup of coffee or you're drinking whatever and you're not actually present at what's going on. So a lot of the idea of that is about guiding us just to really be present and really get into the body. And then I guide us through a meditation. So when you're finished drinking your cacao, you'll be going on your meditation journey and you'll just be lying back on your yoga mat, like with your blankets and your pillows, and like going on a beautiful guided meditation. And I always say to people, just be curious, come with an open heart, open mind, and just see what happens. Have no expectations.
Yeah. So for someone who maybe struggles with anxiety, would they be okay to do it?
Yeah, 100%. Anyone that is open and willing to do it is completely okay to do it. Like for me, as I said, as someone who is very much an overthinker, I think that really helps me and benefited me get into my body. And as I said, it's so good for the body and it releases so many, good chemicals in the brain. Yeah. It is a superfood. It is really, really good. So even if you're not into the spiritual side of things, it has an awful lot of benefits.
Yeah. Another thing, when I was on your website doing a bit of research, I was getting a whole education. Another thing I saw was EFT tapping. And for a week, I was thinking about EFT. I need to look into that EFT taping. I didn't even read it properly. What does that mean? Well, it's tapping, I saw when I read it. What is that?
So EFT is a combination between psychotherapy and acupressure. So it's about actually tapping on the acupressure points on the body.
Okay.
Yeah. And as you're doing that, you will be going through like a one-on-one session. So your EFT therapist with the client will maybe be talking about something that's going on for you. So it could be a phobia, it could be anxiety, and it could be whatever. And as they're having the chat and as you're going through it, you'll continue to tap on the pressure points. And it is scientifically, and research has shown the benefits of it for things like trauma, anxiety, PTSD, etc., etc. So
it's a two-person exercise.
It's a two-person exercise, and it's nearly done in the format of the way you would do talk therapy, but you're tapping on the points.
I'd imagine that can be maybe distressing isn't the right word, but really emotional.
Yeah, because I think, we a lot of the time try to stay up here.
Yeah.
And consciously stay up here. And, the real power is when you get out of here and into the body and feel that emotion and feel what's going on. So it can be a great way to do that. And I see that a lot of time with clients and myself. Like sometimes we just want to talk in circles up here and not really get to what's really going on. You know what I mean? You can go in and try food with your therapist or your coach or whoever. Talk around in circles. I've often done that. So it's a great way of actually getting into the body and feeling what's going on. Because we hold on to so much trauma and stress in the body that unconsciously we're not aware of. So it's a great way as well for releasing that and really getting into what's going on.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier one of your jobs as a life coach is to provide and teach someone with the tools to be able to regulate their emotions and manage their emotions. When a person, obviously we're never fully complete, but when someone is finishing up working with you, what are those tools that you will have equipped them with? What do we need to be able to do that?
Well, everyone's toolbox should look different because there's certain tools. I mean, I could swear by one tool and you'd be like, that just doesn't work for me because we're all different. But I think meditation is a really powerful one. Journaling is a really powerful one. Affirmations is one. Breath work is a really useful one. So it's about having your own toolbox that you can dip into on a day-to-day basis. And I think for me, a lot of the tools are really preventative. I know if I have a morning routine and I meditate and I journal and I might, do a bit of breath work or whatever, I'm setting myself up for the day. I'm filling up my own cup. My mindset is in a good place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when I don't do that for a while, I can get away for a certain while and not doing it. And then I can start seeing the effects of it. For other people, it's not preventative. It's more so, oh my God, I feel stressed.
Yeah.
I feel my nervous system gone here and I need to be able to regulate. Or self-soothe or whatever that may be. And that could be simply as doing a breath work or a meditation or whatever. And it's about having those tools because when you're in day-to-day life and stuff arises, shit happens, which it does, it's being able to tap into them. And your therapist, your coach is not always going to be there in that moment. So it's about being able to self-regulate and back to kind of knowing yourself. You know what I mean? And we kind of spoke about it earlier. Is the one thing that indicates and dictates everything else in life is your relationship with self and your concept of self. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the more work we can do on that and the more we get to know ourselves, it's not easy.
It's not easy.
You know what I mean? There's so many different layers of us and concepts of us and versions of us, and that's okay. And the more you learn, you realise how little you know, and that's all part of it.
Yeah.
But the more you can work on that and start to know what works for you, that's when you can really step into your power.
Yeah. And I think what I struggle with, and I think a lot of people struggle with, is accepting they're just one person, and that to be able to realise that you don't have it all figured out and you're never going to have it all figured out, but that is life. Do you know? I would sit with myself and be like, oh my God, I have so much to do, so much to conquer, and then it puts me off even doing it.
Yeah, you freeze. And I honestly think, I know you're going with social media today, and social media is great now, but that is an aspect of it too as well. Because there's this fakeness where we go on and we see everyone else and they look like they've got all their shit together and they look like they know how they're doing everything. And some people are even portraying that they know how to do everything. And then you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm not in this place. But as you said, the reality is none of us have it all figured out. That is life. And the thing about life is we can't control anything or anyone around us. The only thing we can try control and grasp of control of is ourselves. And that's back to that, controlling my own thoughts, trying to work on my own thoughts, controlling my own relationship with self. That's all we can do. And that's why you back to when you said to me, is it only if you're struggling do you need a therapist? But everyone needs it, because you think about it, if we can get that relationship with self to be the best it can be, we're going to thrive in life. Our life's going to be a lot more easier, a lot more freer. We're still going to have ups and downs. We're still going to have shit happening. We're still going to have rejection. We're still going to have failures. But how we handle them will be very different if our relationship and concept of self is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. And it's something I'm so passionate about, is just that social media, it has, like anything, it has its pros and cons. But God, one of the worst things that has come out of it is seeing a picture of someone and thinking they have the life. And 9 times out of 10, you are so much better off than that person, that you're literally losing sleep over, like, why don't I have a life like that? Like, why hasn't that happened for me? I can't, like, express how fake it is. And it's only as you get a bit older, you really realise, like, the amount of nights I literally lost hours of sleep looking through photos of pretty girls who were skinnier than me, or were off in a holiday to somewhere I couldn't afford, and being like, what are they doing different? And 9 times out of 10, you know, they have to do some shady stuff to get there. You know, it's not because they're, you know, massively successful, like financially or anything like that, you know?
I mean, even if they are, regardless of how they got there, are they happy? You know what I mean? Because I think too, there's this whole kind of like culture as well, as in, like, you know, get, you know, like, you know, positivity, do this, get this. But it's like, you can get these things, like, am I happy? It can be destination happiness, and then the minute you get it, it's like, oh, have that now. So, you know what I mean? Don't care about it. What's next? And you're constantly searching, and again, you're dependent on that external for gratitude. For happiness, for joy. It has to come
and
in.
You're so right, regardless of how someone got somewhere, if they get there and they're genuinely proud and genuinely happy, like, that's all that matters. You know, do what you need to do. You know, providing it's safe and not harmful to you. And I think of, like, younger people looking at that and, like, everyone's a freaking TikToker, and it looks like 90% of the world is, and it's like 1% of the world is actually doing that and are, like, making it like huge money out of it, you know? Probably a little more than that, but do you know what I mean?
It's interesting.
It's mad. You have a retreat coming up this month. Are you so excited for it?
Yeah,
Is this your first one?
No, it's not my first one. I've done before, but it's the retreat concept's returning to self. Because, you know, as we touched on earlier, I just feel that, back to what we were saying, we're living this life that we feel we should be living. And we're comparing ourselves to, you know, Mary up the roads doing X, Y, and Z. Am I doing it? And then, like, do I even want it? You know what I mean? Oh, it's like life has become this checklist. It's like, returning to me. What do I want? And that's why the retreat's a beautiful weekend, to get away from life, from everyone, you know, and just like, what do I want? Go within, you know, and what does Rachel want? What does that feel like? What does that look like to her? And then, what's stopping Rachel from getting there? What limited beliefs have I got? What stories have I made up in my head that is making me feel that I can't have that? You know? So it's, they're powerful weekends. And for everyone, it'll look and feel completely different. You know, we'll have different intentions, but that's what the concept is about. Just drowning away all the shit, all the outside noise, and going within and just returning to me and what do I want in this life, and how do I need to get there?
You have such a beautiful soul and you're so peaceful. What does it look like when you're organising that? Because it's a massive task putting a retreat together. Do you get really stressed?
I love the way you say, you say I'm a beautiful soul, I look really peaceful. I'm not that peaceful.
You are, but then again, that's what we're saying. You look like that.
Do you know what? I think I probably have more stress than I realise I have, like us all. And I'm probably a little bit kind of striving stressed. Like, I'm always busy. You know what I mean? Like, any of us, if you got your own business, you've got to be busy. You don't switch off. It's not a 9 to 5, but we do because we love it, and you're passionate about doing it. And like, when I'm in those retreat spaces, like, I genuinely just love being there.
You love it.
I would rather be. So it's not hard work when it's something you love.
So when you're there, you're not in work mode, like, at all times. To a certain extent, I'm sure you are. But do you get to retreat on the retreat?
No.
No.
No. I'm there to facilitate and hold space for, you know, the clients that are there.
Yeah.
But I'm in my element doing it. Do you know what I mean? I enjoy it. It's where I thrive. It is when that is when I am my truest version of myself and the most content version of myself. And it's a beautiful space, you know.
Yeah.
When women come together, it predominantly for these return self-retreats, it is women, and it's so interesting. Like, the majority of women come by themselves, and it's just like everyone connects, and it's just like-minded people, and everyone's just striving to be the best version of themselves, working on themselves, working on their business, or, you know, working on their families, or whatever it may be. And it's a powerful place to be. You can't be bringing like-minded souls together.
No,
you know, you really just can. It's so powerful.
And the thing as well, I find is when I think, like, here, like, everyone I come in contact with, I would get along with, and it's like when people are actually, you know, when they are being truly themselves, they're really kind. Like, most of them, like, I rarely find someone who isn't really, really kind. But it's because we're all go. I, like, especially with the business, I'm busy a lot of the time, and a lot of my bad moods would stem from that.
Yeah,
do you know?
Stem from stress.
Stem from a lot of that. Like, most people's bad moods, they stem from stress.
Yeah, totally.
You know.
But, like, I always say, like, whenever if, like, let's face it, we're all humans. We're all triggered at times, or we can all snap, or we can all react to things. But when I'm triggered by someone, or I react to someone, or something kind of, you know, mean to say, even if it's just in my head, not out loud, it's like, why am I being triggered by that person? What is this telling me? Because it's never about them. It's about me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's showing me where I need to do work. So, you know, if I'm looking at Rachel Smith, for example, on social media, we're in a social media role today, and I look at your photo, or I look at your story up, and I think, oh my God, she's so full of herself, or she's so whatever. That's not about you. That's about me and my own shit. And that's why I always say to people, if you're looking at people, you know, in life or on social media, and you're thinking or talking about them negatively, you need to stop and reflect inwards. Yeah. Because that's not about them, that's about you, and there's a learn in that, and there's work there to be done.
I say that all the time. Anyone I've ever had a bitch about, like, I don't do it anymore. When I was younger, when I was, like, you know, really, like, self-hating, like you were, they had something I wanted. Yeah. They had someone or something that I wanted. It was never because I genuinely felt like, yeah, I'm doing better than them, so I'm going to bitch about them. Yeah. It was never that. Yeah. They had and they were doing what I wanted. Yeah. And I wasn't putting in the work in myself. Yeah. Which is why I didn't have that thing that I wanted.
Yeah. And, like, that's why you were saying about people genuinely being kind. When someone's genuinely working on themselves and honestly content and happy in their own life, they are kind. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because they're not bothered thinking or talking about anyone else. And that's what also is really interesting. I was just reading the other day, because, you know, like, so much of what we do or don't do is because we're afraid of people's opinions and people's judgment and people talking about it. And it's something like only 2% of the world think, and 3% think they think, right? They don't really. Yeah. And the 95%, the rest of the world, would rather die than think. So when you're worried about people thinking about you, they're not. Because people don't want to think. Because they don't want to sit with themselves to think. Yeah.
It's like a 2-second thing. It's like, oh, you see what she's doing? And then it's gone.
Yeah. And it's nearly just something to say.
Might be hard to choose what the best book you've ever read is. Okay. But what is a book you would recommend, you know, for us to read? It doesn't need to be, you know, someone who's going through a struggle or someone who has their life together. Like, someone who, what could we all read? What could we all do with reading?
I think The Morning Miracle, really lovely little book, and it's about, I honestly think about, if you set up your morning and your morning routine, it changes your life. So that's a simple little read if someone wants to start bringing in healthy changes to their life and become maybe the best version of themselves. Untethered Soul is a beautiful book, quite spiritual, quite deep, but really Man's Search for Meaning is another amazing book. And it's just about kind of, again, your mindset and being the best version of you. And I suppose the bigger picture of the world. So they'd be maybe top 3 to have a read of.
Yeah. I know you have your own affirmation cards. Can they be purchased on your website?
Yes, so I have affirmation cards. The reason I brought them out was because I do really believe in the power of reframing that mind, that subconscious mind. To briefly say, so we all have a subconscious mind. The majority of our subconscious is formed up until the age of 7. So we're so unaware of it. And the amazing thing about the subconscious, there's no limit to it. Anything can go in there. But we don't question it just goes in there. So through life, maybe back when you were a child and someone said something mean, something nasty to you, that's still in there. And unconsciously, that's probably dictating your life right now. And then when we do the bit of work, we can make some of those subconscious thoughts conscious. And then we have the awareness of that. And then when we have the awareness of those limiting beliefs and negative thoughts, that's when we need to start reframing them and changing them. And a great way to do that is affirmations. But like that, if you don't know where to start, it can be really hard. So why I brought out the decks was really, really simple. You just pull one in the morning and read it. And you're just reframing and changing your mindset. And I say to people, even if you're sitting at a desk, just have it sitting there looking at you for the day, or pop it at your mirror as you're doing your makeup. And it's just about changing what you're seeing around you and what you're taking in, because it's all gone into the subconscious.
What's your favourite affirmation?
I think the most simple one that I think is the most powerful one is just, I am enough. Because how many times a day, a week, a month do we tell ourselves we're not good enough to go for that job or go for whatever it may be? So I think, we can never tell ourselves enough that we are enough.
I am enough.
I am enough.
Aimee, thank you so much. I am so delighted to have you on. If anyone wants to get in contact with you, sign up for a cacao ceremony, how can we do so? How can we reach you?
So I am on Instagram, Ganbaru Coaching, or the website is www.ganbarucoaching.com.
I love it. Thank you for giving me all your knowledge today. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome.